Welcome to another edition of Anoki Uncensored Live. I'm your host this week, the founder and CEO of the umbrella brand Anoki Life. Today's topic, how casteism has played a major role in shaping identity. And my guest tonight is one of the hardest working women in the media business, my girl, Meera Estrada. Sweetheart, thank you so much. Well, finally, after all the years that we've known each other, I get you
I
on one of my
know.
shows.
Ah, so happy.
Yeah, I'm so super happy as well, sweetheart. Well, let's give people a little bit of backstory on you, just so they kind of understand the world that you come from. So, folks, for those of you who don't know, Meera is a well-known beauty and culture expert who appears on numerous radio and television outlets across Canada. She is the executive producer and host of a really tremendous show called The Kultur'D Show, a weekly pop culture radio show with a lens on diversity. And she brings her fabulously quirky personality to it. And you never quite know, what emotion is going to erupt from her, because she really is an open book. She's very transparent, very real, very honest, and she brings with her heart, she brings her heart with her everywhere she goes. And you'll find that if you haven't already had a chance to check out her show, just make sure that you do. It's called The Kultur'D Show, and Meera will definitely give us a little bit more information on that, so you can make sure that you tune in, because it's weekly and it's flipping awesome. She is also the founder and former editor-in-chief of Fusia Media, a digital publication which is geared towards the modern Canadian South Asian woman. Again, another really, really great entrepreneurial enterprise by my girl. She'll talk to us as well about that. And it doesn't end there, folks. She, in her varied role as a freelance writer today, has bylines in literally like every publication out there. But let me just name a few, because I need to name drop a little bit here. ELLE Canada, InStyle, Refinery 29, Flair, Chatelaine, Bustle, Huffington Post. I'm running out of breath. CBCLife, Global News, and so much more. Armed with a degree from the Schulich School of Business, paired with a postgraduate in multimedia journalism, Meera is a force of media savvy, and I absolutely adore, admire, and respect her. She's my little sister, and I'm so happy that we're going to be having this really important conversation, sweetheart.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, my love. Look how humble she is. I love that about you, my love. So let's talk a little bit, Meera. I want to kind of,
Yeah.
start where all good stories start, and that's right at the beginning. I want people to get a bit of insight into the woman that you were pre your media career. So can you touch a little bit on that, where you were born, how you got to Canada, and maybe anything that you feel is a good insight for people to know about you?
Yeah, for sure. So I was born in England. I came here.
Yay!
Yeah, to the Brits, right? I don't have
Yes.
the accent like you. Yeah, I came here when I was 4 years old. So, I mean, all of my family, though, pretty much is still in England. We go back all the time. Um, so that was our childhood. It's hard knowing the focus of this because everything in my childhood sort of does come back to what the topic of this whole conversation is going to be about. And my education and all of that sort of all plays into uh, the bigger story of this conversation. But yeah, so I came to Toronto then as a child, grew up here, had a pretty, I can't complain about my childhood at all. But when I was 15 years old,
Mm-hmm.
I might as well just get into it with you, right?
Girl, we're going to start wherever you're comfortable. We're going to flow through this.
Yeah, so because it all starts young. So when I was 15 years old here in Canada,
Mm-hmm.
my parents sat my brother and I down, and so I have an older brother. He's 4 years older than me, and they said, Meera, we have to tell you something, very, very serious. And I'm like, okay. So we sat down on the sofa, And that's the first time they told us about caste, and they explained it to us. And they said, you know, you're untouchable. I'm like, untouchable? Like, what is that? I didn't even know what that was, because we had never ever talked about anything to do with caste at all.
Right, right.
And they didn't get into details at that time, but they did tell my brother and I this one thing. They said, because of what you are born as, life is going to be harder for you, and education is the most important thing. This is the only way to get ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And it was sort of just drilled into my head. And from that moment on, at age 15, I suddenly became hyper sensitive, even though I was like, this whole thing is stupid. I don't like, that's not me. I was
Mm-hmm.
hypersensitive suddenly to caste. And then I started becoming hypersensitive to how much, even living in North America, I
Mm-hmm.
was hearing about it. And so my background is Gujarati. I
Yeah.
suddenly realized that in regular conversations, even like as a child, I would go to Gujarati school. People would ask, "Oh, what's your surname? What's your last name? What samaj do you go to?" That was sort of ways of asking
Mm-hmm.
what caste you are.
Right.
And it was sort of always all around me. And, you know, people would very proudly say, "Oh, I'm a Brahmin. Are you a Brahmin?" And I'm like, "No." And I would feel suddenly, knowing what my parents told me, that we are the lowest, I didn't want to talk about it. I have
Yeah.
felt very, um, I felt a shame in that. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to talk about it. I didn't know why. I knew something was scary about it.
Mm-hmm.
I learned as I became older why it was so scary. I learned what my parents and grandparents, the violence and the segregation they went through because of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it stayed with me from such a young age and shaped everything I did. But it wasn't just me. It's it's around in all the conversations and everything that our communities do.
Right.
Just it's in the absence of how we talk about the lower, I hate even using the word lower, because there's something lower about it, but it's in the absence of how we talk about untouchables and the
Mm-hmm.
Dalits, and that the caste that has been outcast, and how we only talk about um those the upper caste and the ruling caste, because in that we have been erased.
Mm-hmm.
People like me have been erased, and our erasure is felt like we feel voiceless.
Right. So, can you share a little bit for those who are uninitiated, Meera, that don't really understand what casteism is? Like, what? How can you best describe that? It's such a huge subject matter, right? And depending on who you ask, people have different perspectives on what it is. Can you
Yeah.
explain, just kind of from a logical perspective, for those people who may be checking this out, maybe haven't been brought up with caste system in our culture, because it is there are some people that just don't get it. And if anyone's checking in from a different culture, like, can you share what that actually is in
Yeah.
Hindu
Yeah. So
traditional
in
culture?
Yeah, so in like very simple term, like this is something that is like over 2,000 years old. If
Right.
we're talking about the traditional Hindu caste system,
Yeah.
it was basically grouped into four different sections, right? So at the very top of that system was the Brahmins, which were like the teachers and the priests. Then you had the next, which is called the Kshatriyas, who were the warriors. And then you had the Vaishyas, who were the merchants and the traders. Then you had the Shudras, the laborers. And then there was actually the not they were considered not even within that higher, that four is like a pyramid of four. It
Mm-hmm.
was they were people that were considered so low that they're called subcaste, and they were called the untouchables. And
Mm-hmm.
that is what I was born into. And that were people that did the jobs of, like the menial jobs of um, clearing dead bodies and animal tanning and all of these jobs that need to be done, cleaning toilets, whatever it may be. Those were considered the untouchables, which was not even in the caste system, it was subcaste.
Right.
And according to the caste system, you are born into that, and that is who you are, and you cannot come out of that, regardless of what you do. That is who you are.
Now, did you experience that? What you just described, did you experience the effects of that here in Canada?
Yeah, okay, so it is so funny because I experienced it over and over again in terms of, I would hear conversations from people saying, when they asked me about my caste, it was always assumed it's very difficult to be educated. So for example, my grandfather in India, he wasn't allowed, untouchables were not allowed to go to school. So my grandfather on my father's side actually didn't go to school, and he died very young because we were so poor. He died of asthma, which is not something somebody should die from.
Yeah, absolutely.
My grandfather on my mother's side did go to school. He learned sitting outside of the school building because he was not permitted inside of a school. But he was so determined to learn that he learned to read and write listening outside of a school.
Wow.
And so that was where we learned that education was so important. Then my grandfather on my father's side went to Africa, and he has started a business there. So when we, luckily through my mom, and that's how they ended up in England, came here, there is not a huge population of untouchables outside of India, because it is very, very difficult
to get out.
Because education is such a problem, right? So people just assume when I'm here that I am of a higher caste. And so they will make comments to me like, even I remember especially it was in my, like those years when people are trying to matchmake you and marriages and things like that. This is where it became very touchy for me, because people would be matchmaking, like, like aunties and like at the temple and the community, be like, oh, he's such a good boy, he's from a good family, and they would be, talking about caste quite openly. And in my mind, I'm thinking, but what am I? Am I a good girl? Am I from a good family? What are you gonna say when we say who we are?
Right.
Because we're so-called, apparently we're not, as amazing as my parents are, we're not quote unquote good. And so I find
according to these rules. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And so that came up time and time and time again, like about a good boy, a good family, over and over again. I would hear it all the time. And
how did you react? How did you react to people doing that with you? Like, how was that? Because people actually don't understand how painful it is to be subjugated because of a belief system, because that's actually what all this is, right? If you look at it from that perspective, sweetheart, because you're human, I'm human, right? We are on this earth to do our life's purpose, to do, what it is that we believe in. But very few people on this earth actually get the opportunities to do that. And caste system is one of those things that holds you back from being able to do it if you're not on the quote unquote right side of the caste system.
Exactly. So, I mean, for me, I really internalized it. And I think I believed that I was not good. And as much as I love my family and who I was, I really believed that I was not a good girl. And so I started to become fearful in my 20s. And I think I started to gravitate away from, like, even from dating Indian guys after a while, because I would hear them say too, I would constantly hear, you see in like those, like the dating profile, like the bio data, seeking fair-skinned Brahmin girl, right? How many times have we heard it? It's like, it's even a joke, but that's how many times we've heard it. And I'm like, I'm not fair-skinned, I'm not a Brahmin girl. So what does that make me? And what is going to happen when this guy, as much as he likes me, when he introduced me to his parents and they ask me these questions, what will I say? And I felt like I would always have to be so much better to just be accepted. And I think subconsciously I started gravitating just away from dating Indian guys because of that, because I just felt like I don't know how to be good enough, even though I thought I was okay.
Right.
I didn't know how to be okay for the world, like for the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it even affects you in terms of your hopes and dreams. Like, I wanted to be a journalist from right out of the gate. Like, I knew it in my heart of hearts.
Yeah.
But I
You're
also
born
knew,
for it, girl.
yeah, but
Yeah.
the thing is, my parents drilled it into me from that day when I was 15 years old. Education is the only way, and we are going to have to work so much harder. So when
Yeah.
it came time for university, I went to business school because, and my dad said it was such good intention. He's like, there's nobody like us. And at that time, there wasn't really brown people on TV telling the news. Like, there wasn't. And he said, you need to get a really good degree because that is your only way out, right? That is our only way out of this circumstance. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to let my parents down. I know how hard they worked to get out of their circumstance. Like, the dire poverty that my father has come from,
Mm-hmm.
I cannot even express that.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to business school. I didn't want to go to business school. I don't regret it now. I learned so much. I have a wonderful degree.
Of course.
I would have gone to journalism if I didn't have that weight on me. But I did the safe thing because I felt like I needed to do that for my family.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that we carry.
Yeah. And what's interesting with what you're saying there, Meera, what's wrong with that? I mean, what's wrong with doing something with a good intention? I mean, this was important to your father, and you did it, and you didn't not gain from it. I mean, look at all
No,
the
not at all. I don't
entrepreneurial
regret. Yeah.
enterprises that you've done, sweetheart. Like, you started Fusia Media. You started the Kultur'D Show. This comes from a business entrepreneurial acumen.
Totally.
You learned this, sweetheart. You were meant. This is a part of your journey. You were meant to know this in order to have kind of done some of the unique things that you've done in your professional career, and you've done unique things. Like, there isn't anyone quite like you in terms of the diversity of pockets of media that you've had yourself partake in. Like, most people out of the gate, they say, okay, I'm going to be in this kind of media, and they keep trugging along in that kind of media. At least here in Canada, because there aren't a lot of opportunities, right? But you've kind of done all types of media, right? Which is like from print to broadcast to online to radio, and now this book.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's not that many people out there in Canada from our culture and our community, right, that have done as diverse an offering and portfolio as you have. I admire you, and I think that what you've accomplished is a testament to you as a person, and you as a woman, and you as kind of just the strong faux de tour that you are. So, you should really hold that strong, because I've watched your journey. I've known you for so many years. I've known you since Suhag magazine, almost like a legacy brand. I mean, a legacy brand, because it was one of those brands pre the internet. You were right there as one of the OGs, right?
Yeah. No.
So, but your journey's been very interesting for me, and hearing more about, the fact that you've gone through a very interesting challenge. And I'm going to call it an interesting challenge because it's not one that many people in Canada who are South Asian have been through. It isn't. It's quite unique what you've gone through. And this is why I feel it's important that people understand, truly how successful you are from where you were positioned. And you were positioned into something. And this is kind of what happens with us, right, babe? We get positioned into stuff. We get positioned into systems and infrastructures and ways that we're told we're meant to be. And it kind of fuses the identity that we feel that we're worth, right? I know this, being South Asian, being a woman, being a divorced woman. I understand how it feels when you're made to feel less than. but in a very different way than you. But the feelings are no less. You still feel unworthy. You feel you have to keep explaining yourself, or you have to hide. These are the feelings I've had. So you know, when you talk about this to me, it makes my heart pound, because I feel the same way also about how I was made to feel, you know, as a divorced South Asian woman with a 3-year-old kid. And this is what this is what culture does to us, right? These strong cultures, what they do is they break us down if we don't fit within the above the fold, you know, idea of what life is meant to be. And it's, you know, times 10 if you're a woman. I want to ask you that, right? Like, as a woman, right? Do you feel that factored in at all?
100%. I mean,
yeah, tell me.
Because early on, I had said to my parents, I said, I want to talk about this.
Yeah.
And my mom was the one, and this is where the woman part comes in. My mom said very early on, she said, Meera, if you say this, do you realize that people won't talk to us? And she named people in our family friend circle, because all of our family is still in England, right? She said, these people won't talk to us. And I was sort of confused, and I'm like, and this is when I was younger, and I said, but Mom, if those people don't talk to us, like, do we even want them in our lives? And then now looking back, I realized my mom came from such a place of fear.
Yeah.
And now I realize too, especially Dalit women are so sexually traumatized as well, like sexually taken advantage of, all of these other layers as well.
Yes.
But my mom was genuinely so fearful of coming out about this. And
rightfully so.
Yeah, and she said, please do this after we pass on. And it was only a very big event happened, and my mom was there for it. And when this happened to me, my mom said, okay, you know what, I think you need to tell this story.
Really?
Because it was with a friend of ours. And this is when I say that I get very upset when people say this does not exist, because this is so rampant right here in North America.
Are you talking about casteism?
Yeah.
Oh, it's like all over the workforce. It's all over marriage. It's all over the privilege of education.
Yes.
Like, where are these people?
And so the thing that bothers me is that people don't want to talk about it. And
that's why people don't realize that it is so rampant, and it is so, you know, in every fabric of where we are as South Asians in North America. It's because they're not talking about it, sweetheart.
Yeah, and the thing is, the reason they don't want to talk, I think we've sort of come to this like precipice where the perfect storm has happened, where I think we can talk about it, because when Black Lives Matter, with George Floyd, when everything happened in June, the perfect storm of that, and the Indian matchmaking, the book that that came out this past year by Isabel Wilkerson, that case, the Cisco case, where it was the first case in US history where casteism was the discrimination case. It suddenly felt like all of these things came together, that it brought casteism, that we couldn't ignore it, and it's finally become part of the conversation.
Thank God.
But for all of us that have been there and have felt this, it was always part of our conversation. Just there was nobody that we could voice it to. And it's like my closest friends, my best friends that I grew up with, I only told them about my caste 2 years ago. When I was 40 years old, was the first time I said the words out loud.
And how did that go? Are you comfortable sharing that?
Yeah, no, that in itself is telling. Half of them very supportive, the other half I haven't heard from.
Wow, that is crazy. My mind can't wrap around.
And so when we want to say, does it exist? Well, they're clearly...
You're one example of many, of thousands of people who are going through this every single day in North America, every single day. Forget about India and the diaspora, right? I mean, that's just like times 1,000, right? You can see it. You can see you know, the disparity that happens there. But this conversation isn't about that. This conversation is about, how is this even existing, right? Like, how is this allowed to exist in a North American society where everybody's supposed to, you know, presumably supposed to have kind of, sort of equal opportunities? I say kind of, sort of, because that's a whole other conversation, right? I want to ask you, you know, you wrote this chapter in the book created by Brown Girl Mag called Untold: Defining Moments of the Uprooted, that is going to be released in January. Tell me why you decided to write about this particular part of your journey and your story. For me, it's obvious, but for those who don't get it, you know, can you share that?
So it was almost like the timing of this happened when I found out about, you know, they were looking for writers for this, was when it was sort of I almost feel like I've had a coming out,
Yeah.
because I was like in the closet about my identity until literally 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And then it's like when I came out, I needed to come out and I wanted to tell as many people my story as possible, because I know mine is not a unique story. I know there's so many people, but they feel scared. You can go and read articles on The Guardian, in CNN. There are finally starting to be people come out, but they are remaining anonymous, and that tells you something, because they are fearful. I am
Yes.
one of very, very few people from the Dalit community who openly will say my name. And I don't blame the people who are remaining anonymous, because they are scared.
Of course.
Scared. I was scared for 40 years of my life. My parents were scared for 70 years of their life. So, I mean, for me, it was just, once I came out, I feel like I need to tell as many people about this as possible, because I know they're aware of it, especially our South Asian community. They're aware, but I need to come be in their face and say, "Hey, you know about this. Now what are we going to do about it?"
Right, absolutely. So here you are sitting there writing the book, you know, your participation in the book, your chapter. How was that process for you? At the very least, cathartic.
Yeah. It was highly emotional. I learned so much about my parents. I have such a deep, deep respect and like, it makes me very emotional, because the abuse and the humiliation that they have gone through is
unconscionable.
Yes. And I need people to know it. And in writing it, I learned so much. You know, it was to the point that my father couldn't even speak the words to me when I was trying to research. He had to write them to me, because he couldn't look me in the eye and tell me.
It was too traumatic,
So
sweetheart.
when somebody tells me that this doesn't exist, I can't deal with that.
But those somebodies that don't know don't matter. They don't matter, Meera, because they don't know your life. They don't know the amount of discrimination that's happening out there based on caste system today here in North America. We talked about this a little bit, right? It's in the education system when you go for higher education. It's in the work environments. Do you remember that story that came out? It's just coming to me right now. Equality Labs, they remember that one? They put out this petition. It was Bay Area tech companies discrimination, and this whole kind of thing that blew up.
It's becoming a really big problem, especially, I mean, the thing in Canada doesn't do as much race-based data, but in the States is a lot more, you know, cutting edge on that. But it's becoming a problem, because as immigration from India gets more and more, you know, we ramp that up, we are seeing casteism sort of blow up in North America, and it's following India and happening right here in North America, to the point there was somebody even in Silicon Valley that said one of their employers wouldn't allow her to drink from the same cup. Like, those are things you would hear about in India. No, that stuff is happening here now
Yeah.
as well. People
Yeah.
are being withheld from job opportunities, like so many different things. A university in Massachusetts actually for the first time put caste discrimination in their school guidelines because they had one of the professors, several students came to them saying that they were being harassed and discriminated against. That's
Wow.
here. That's in North America. So
Right.
I mean, it's not when people. I remember this very, very vividly. It was 2017. Priyanka Chopra had come to TIFF
Yeah.
to do a TIFF talk at Share Her Journey TIFF talk.
Yep. I
And
remember
somebody
that.
had asked her, and it was one of those big talks. It was with Cameron Bailey at TIFF.
Yeah.
And it was a white gentleman, and he was sitting at the front. And like you said, everybody in the mainstream Western population doesn't necessarily know. And they had asked her, "Can you explain about this whole caste thing? And
Mm,
is this still here?"
I
And
remember that.
she had said, she's like, "Oh no, that's just like in the rural parts of India, and that's long gone," and like really like fully brushed it off.
Mm-hmm.
I almost I literally was about to jump out of my seat because it was just a week prior that that incident that was life changing for me had happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to jump out of my seat to say, "No, I need to tell you why you're wrong." And
Right.
she had said, "Oh, there's Desis in the audience. Do you agree?" And some aunties at the front were like, "Yeah." They started clapping. And so I kind of shrugged and sat back down.
Girlfriend, if you
And
stood up,
I
I
was
was in that audience, you'd have had at least one person supporting you, girlfriend.
but but I was so, to this day I wanted to talk to her again, because I'm like, not only does it exist not in just in rural India, in modern India as
Yep.
well. Hello, did anyone watch Indian matchmaking?
Oh my God, don't even get me
Right?
started on that.
So it exists in modern India, not just rural India.
Yeah.
It exists right here. And hi, a huge thing just happened to me last week. Can I tell this whole audience what happened to me
Of
last week?
course. Of course.
So, people need to be very, very careful with their platforms. And I just, to this day, that has irked me.
Mm-hmm.
That that was just an example of privilege,
Mm-hmm.
showing itself and
Absolutely.
showing its ignorance.
Absolutely. So can I ask you if you're comfortable to talk about what people should expect from your chapter? Only that which you feel you want to share, because they got to go get the book, right?
Yes, they
They
have
got
to
to
get
go
the
get
book.
the book.
And they
So
have to get the book also because it's not,
other stories,
there's 30 stories. And
right?
these are really stories of people like myself who have felt, it's called Untold for a reason. They're telling
Absolutely.
their stories, whether it is about divorce, mental health, LGBTQ, like what different powerful stories
Mm-hmm.
that, especially, and they're all like, it's coming from women, like that we have just felt like we have been silenced, and like we are
No more.
untold no more.
Yeah, no
So
more.
yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You've mentioned a couple of times that a certain something happened in your life that affected your mother to a point where she says, you need to go tell this story. Are you comfortable sharing any part of what that was that kind of changed the game for
it,
you?
yeah, I don't want to give it all away because I do share it in the book as well, but
Fair enough.
essentially it was something to do with a very close friend of mine,
Mm-hmm.
that when they showed their true colors
Mm-hmm.
and they said something, it was something so hateful and
To
not
you or about you? You
about
don't,
me, about caste.
okay.
And this is when nobody knew what caste I am, and to my
Mm,
face and to my mother's face. And it was just so heinous. And I thought, I don't know anybody I think my mother and I both in that moment realized we don't really know anybody around us. And this is sort of all a facade. And it just, I don't know, nothing felt real anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when did this happen, Meera? Like, was this a while ago? Was this recent around your kind of 40th birthday when you felt?
Yeah, this was
Yeah.
this was probably about three and a half years ago, maybe.
Okay. Okay. All right. And you know what's really interesting about, you know, the story that you're sharing, which is rightfully so, you should feel that way, is that the pain hasn't gone. The pain, like, what is it that keeps taking you back there?
I think it's that not being able to trust people.
Mm-hmm.
That sense of, I don't know, I guess for so long you think you know, and I get it doesn't have to do with caste, it could do with so many things, that feeling of betrayal.
Right. Oh, yes, that's the big
Maybe
one,
that's
isn't it?
exactly betrayal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you feel like you know somebody so well and you
You
don't.
don't. Yeah.
And I feel like that's with, and maybe that has jaded me for so much of society, because I feel like I'm not ever really judged for my actions. I'm judged for this label that has been put on me, but that I have nothing to do with. Like
Right.
I don't I don't know what it is. I have nothing to do with that. But
Mm-hmm.
that's the label that is on me.
But I don't feel it's on you. I don't, when I see you, when I talk to you, I've known you for a long time, sweetheart. I mean, we had the best trip to Paris, by the way. I still like, I'm dying for us to go back. We had the best time ever. I don't see any of that to be the identity of the woman that you are. So can you tell me, from an identity perspective, you know, you've come out, you've written about this because other people need help and they need to hear it, like you're a role model in that regard, right? What is your identity for you today that maybe was different prior to talking about this publicly? Has it changed for you? Like, forget about what the world
I
thinks. For you.
think, no, I don't think my identity has changed at all. I think I am just much more, it's sort of all on the table, and it is what it is. Like I'm much more confident in my own skin, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why even, you know, I will write commentary. I will commentary is commentary, right? But I will. Whereas before I was much more guarded.
Yeah.
I've sort of let my guard down.
Yeah, I love it. And
Uh,
you have. See, I wanted to ask you this question specifically because I've noticed that. I've noticed that, you know, you stand up very, very loud and clear and concise and logical and well researched about the things that you believe in. Like you become very well known now for being a strong voice for those people who don't speak up. Like,
mhm.
I mean, you get that, right? Like you get
Yeah,
that something
and
hugely positive has come out of the
I fully,
experience here.
yeah, and I do, and I feel I take it very seriously. Like for example, this past week, like, and I feel like so many of those worlds intermix. Like for example, you know, I talk about, of course, on my radio show, I talk about pop culture,
Yeah.
but in that, for example, Lori Loughlin, like the college admissions thing, I was
Yes.
so triggered, and I took that to heart. But that also comes from where I come from, and that feeling of, you know, knowing my family wasn't allowed to be educated as much as they wanted to, right? So to me that was like deeply triggering. And the week it all happened, last March, I wrote about it the following week. I told my editor at Global News, I said, I need to write about this. I was in tears. Like I was so physically, I didn't realize how triggered I would be by that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like I can take these things now and use them as opportunities to write about things and write
Yeah.
about, let's talk about legacy admissions. So why did these happen? Let's talk about donations and
Right.
all of these things. These are very relevant things that are happening right here, right, in our society. Let's talk about all of these different things. Let's talk about, why do people have such a problem with affirmative action, and then these same people go and make these huge donations to college so that their kids can get into the best schools. Like, let's talk about this, right?
Right. Right.
I was, once again this week, I was really mad when Olivia Jade, Lori Laughlin's daughter, was given a seat at the Red Table Talk. I'm like, why does she need a seat at that table? There are so many people with zero platform. She
Mm-hmm.
doesn't need a seat at that table by 3 Black women
Right.
her. She does, to give her forgiveness. No. What about, there's probably two of many Black mothers who are serving real jail time just for putting an address so their kids could go to public school. Let's talk about them. Let's talk about their families. Their
Yeah.
families should be the ones who have some sort of platform.
Absolutely.
So I
But
think
that's the
for me,
thing, right, sweetheart? It's not, it's never been equal. There's always been disparity. There's layers and layers of it. And it's so deep rooted. Infrastructures, culture, society has been created around these disparities. And they've been created for a reason. And there's always a currency association, whatever that currency may be. And there's always been that only a few people get to, reap the rewards of such disparity
and
and suffering, babe, because that's actually what
and
happens here.
exactly. And so the thing that's really bothered me is, before it was only people in places of privilege that always held that voice. Even they would say, you would even see it in like India, people saying, oh, you know what, they're so happy doing that. They're so happy, washing my clothes and stuff. At least they have something to do. And
Oh my
I would
God.
have a really hard time with it, or you would see it on TV shows. And I was like, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
I come from that place.
Yeah.
Trust me, they would be much, much happier if they could get an education and have somebody else do that. Somebody
Of
else rubbing
course.
their feet. Do you think they really enjoy massaging your feet and doing all this stuff? No, they would love if these roles were reversed.
Right.
And so I feel like I want to be the voice of so many of these voiceless, because
Right.
they don't have that platform to say a lot of these things.
And that's exactly what you do today, sweetheart. Like whenever something's going on, I can always rely on getting a commentary that I can read by you. I can always rely on that. And we talk about it oftentimes, even in our private groups and things, that and discussions come from it. And that's the most important thing here, right? Is that there needs to be people that talk about these things in a very brave manner, so that we can actually create awareness and have discussions. Without the discussions, nothing will ever change. You know this, sweetheart. Like, it's got to start somewhere. And it always starts with people that have had the greatest negative experiences, because courage has got to come from some incentive, right? Like, it's unfortunate, but that just is the reality of, our human condition. So let me ask you this. You are a mother of gorgeous little girls. I know somehow that factored into all of this, right? Talk to me about that for you as a mom now.
Mm-hmm. Motherhood, as you know, changes everything.
Everything.
And somebody else had asked me about this, and it's crazy, right? So for people that might not know, so my husband is actually, he's not Indian at all. He's my husband is half Spanish and half West Indian.
Yes.
And it, just to go back to, to talk about identity before we even had children.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's so, like, when I say these things are so steeped into us,
Mm-hmm.
when I was getting married, my parents felt that they wanted to tell my husband's family, like, you know, what our identity is. And so they told
Even though they're not Indian.
even though they're not Indian.
Wow.
And I had seen it with all of my cousins that got married, because, you know, then, you know, once you're in England and, you know, North America, all these other places, you're gonna be dating different people, whatever, right? So they would date, you know, maybe a Punjabi person or a Gujarati person that is from a different community, right? And they would always have these conversations, and it would feel so like traumatic, this conversation where you had to reveal to the other family. And I remember some of it
sounds horrific, babe. It sounds horrific.
Sometimes it would end up in, you know, horrible, like, you know, you can't treat our daughter badly because of this, and it wasn't pleasant. But I remember when my parents told my in-laws, you know, this is who we are. And I remember my uncle and my mother-in-law saying, we don't even know what that is. Like, we don't care. We don't know what that is. And for me, I felt like literally the weight of the world come off of my chest. And I cried, because I thought, this family is going to judge me for me. For me. Like, I will never, ever, like, I used to get emotional now. And I'm like, I will never have to just try to be better than me just because of what I was born at. I just get to be me.
Yes.
And I was so, I can't explain it. And it sounds silly to somebody who wouldn't have to think about that, but I had that weight on my chest for so long.
Yeah.
And so then when I had kids, like coming back to now having children,
right,
my husband, now that he has been part of my family, and understanding everything that my family has gone through, understands this with our son and daughter. And he understands that too, that if should they decide to marry somebody that is Hindu, this may come up. It's not gone away. And the reason we know this is because people in my own generation who are now parents are raising their kids with these values that, oh, we're Brahmins. Why is there still a Brahmin society if we don't care about this? Why? Only those ones of the upper crust are the ones that we're celebrating. Does that not tell us something?
Right.
Right? So
it's because for them, it's an accomplishment somehow.
Exactly, right?
Somehow,
so that's what I'm saying. So if we are still celebrating this, and say, should my kids decide to marry somebody, that conversation is going to come up all over again. And
how do you feel about that, sweetheart? Like, what's in your head around that?
Well, I want my kids not to feel how I did when I was 15 years old. Right? I want to fully equip them with all of that empowerment, because I think my parents handled it a little bit differently, and I don't blame them in any way, because
you can't, because they were traumatized, sweetheart.
They went through exactly, because of what they went through. So
I just instinctually feel, sweetheart, that, you know, your kids, excuse my language, are just not gonna give a shit. And the reason is because of the parents that they have. I really do believe that.
Yeah. Well,
right? It's like you're a product of the fact that your parents gave a shit because they had no other choice. They had no other choice, sweetheart. You have created the choice.
Yeah. So
that's the big difference.
Yeah. But I think for me as a parent, I hate knowing that. But for
that
my children,
that it could come up.
Yeah. Like, it really disgusts me that, you know, my own generation, like, this is how they're raising their children.
And for those people out there who are listening right now or just tuning in and think that this only happens in India and it doesn't even happen there other than in rural places, like, you are dead wrong. It is happening in our communities. It's happening in our churches. It's happening in our schools, in our universities, in our work environments. It is happening in our relationships, right? Meera, you're just one of many examples of the layers of which this discrimination still exists today here in our backyard in North America, right? So I want to ask you something. This is actually getting me riled up that this even exists today. It's so frustrating to see that people give a shit about something that actually does not matter, does not make a person good or bad, doesn't make them less or more to love. Their capacity to be, to be intelligent, loving, caring, nurturing human beings does not come from, a caste system. It just doesn't.
I know it sounds ridiculous when you say it, but
no, but babe, let's make it sound ridiculous, because people out there who make it important because they're on the, they're on the other side of it, that needs to stop. Their children cannot, be a part of this. It's actually abuse. I mean, to me, this is abusing your children to make them think they're better for no effort to make themselves a better human being. Do you see where I'm coming from, sweetheart? What would you say? Like, because, they're telling me that I got to shut up now and our show's nearly done. And I'm like, oh my God, we only just started talking. What would you say to people out there who think that caste system still has a legitimate place in modern society today? Tell me what you would say to them, because I want to know what you would say. Because I would say,
I'll tell you. I would say, are you sitting on some leather seats in your car, my friend? Because
you're right.
This is the thing, like the hypocrisy is what I can't, because if it all comes down to, it's about your birthright, not your actions, right?
That's actually what this is.
And so then it's like, okay, so you're a priest. So I'm a tanner, like I'm not sure, or I carry dead body. I'm not sure what my job is, but if that's what you're saying I do, I have nothing. I don't know anything about that. Do you know anything about teaching the religion? Do you know the Bhagavad Gita, the Vedas? Do you know it all?
Yeah,
I just saw you eat your McDonald's beef burger. What are you doing there, buddy? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yes,
it's so ridiculous.
For those people who are victimized by this still today, what would you say to them after the experience that you've gone through? And I specifically say gone through.
I would say you are not alone, not by any means, and to reach out. Please reach out to somebody. There is support. In India, there is support. In North America, there is support.
Where's the support here, sweetheart? Like if there's someone out there listening and they're like really dying inside and they're trying to figure this out, where can they go?
I mean, come to me. Like there is no. I don't think there is formal support in terms of like a caste particular, like that. People against. There is like some. There is very small little groups and things like that online you might find. But I mean, there is support in terms of like mental health resources, because it's so traumatizing, and I feel like you need to speak about it. And I understand people don't want to speak about it publicly. That's fine, but speak to somebody.
Yes, I totally agree with that, sweetheart. You have been such an open book, like you always are, like you always have been, and like I hope that you'll always be. You are a champion to people out there who, just don't have the courage to stand up for their right to be human, for their right to be not judged on things that aren't who they are and don't matter, because they don't matter, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you, and I'm so excited to see all the things that are going to come out of this journey that you've been on. And I really want to encourage people, at the end of this conversation that we're having, to go pick up this book. Can you give people some information? Tell them again what the title is. Where can they go pick this up? Because they're going to hear the full story. Guys, you haven't even heard, anything. in this conversation compared to what you're going to read in this chapter that has been penned by Meera. And that's one of 30 stories that are untold. So please, sweetheart, if we can close off by you sending people to go pick up this book.
Yes, so the book is called Untold, Defining Moments of the Uprooted, and it is a collaboration with Brown Girl Magazine and Mango and Marigold Press.
Yeah.
So you can check it out on Mango and Marigold Press or Brown Girl on Instagram. And if you click on the link, you can click to purchase from there.
Perfect. So folks, you heard it right here. You can go to the Instagram of Brown Girl Mag, right?
Or
The link is right there, or to
Mango and Marigold Press.
Perfect. Okay, we got it right there. And folks, if you want to follow Meera, like, you know, you really actually need to follow her, because she really is a force to be reckoned with when it comes to, you know, standing up for the person that, you know, doesn't have the wherewithal to stand up for themselves. She is an incredible social activist storyteller, and I'd like you guys to go follow her. Tell them, folks, how they can follow you, sweetheart. Like, what are all the different ways?
For sure. You can follow me on Instagram at Meera.Estrada.
Meera, I love you. I thank you. You are wonderful. Sharing your story today really is going to help a lot of people out there. And that's the goal here at the end of the day, right, my friend?
For sure, 100%.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, my love.